Hello and good evening. Welcome to the West Hartford Board of Education regular meeting. We are calling it to order. It is now Wednesday, February the 22nd, 2023. Charlotte, may you please begin with the roll call?
Dr. Chang.
Present.
Mr. Goldman.
Here.
Dr. Harris.
Here.
Dr. Kamoff.
Here.
Ms. Nazarella.
Present.
Dr. Steinberg.
Here.
Dr. Thomas Farquharson.
Here.
Student Representative Megan Murphy.
Here.
And Student Representative Caitlin Striffcave.
Excused. Thank you. And Megan, may you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We do not have a revision to the agenda order, And we now have public communications. This is an opportunity where we're able to hear from you, your thoughts, your questions, your concerns, your suggestions. Each person has 3 minutes to speak, and while speaking, please be mindful of Charlotte, who will hold up a yellow card when you have 1 minute remaining in your time, and a red card when your time has expired. Please know that while you are speaking, we are attentively listening to comments being made. However, it is board policy that we do not respond to comments as they are being made or during the meeting. When you come to the podium, if you can please share your name and your town of residence. We do have a policy where we start first by hearing from those speaking on agenda items, and those agenda items for this evening include proposed school calendar for 2024-2025, multi-year enrollment projections, and superintendent search update. And so we have a list here. There is no one who has signed up for agenda items. However, I will ask, is there anyone here who would like to speak on an agenda item? Hearing none, we now will move to those who have signed up to speak on general comments. And first on the list, we have Anita.
My name is Anita, and I live in West Hartford. I just want to state that today there was a Freedom of Information Commission meeting, and at that meeting, if you will recall, February 15th, I gave a Freedom of Information request for records which were financial detail, and I had written out what they were. Elizabeth Hewitt has not provided all the records, and they found her in violation for that Freedom of Information. And I'm going to say why that is important for you. In my youth, I did serve as treasurer down in Philadelphia, mainline Philadelphia to be exact. And I was fresh out of college. I did all of my introductory business courses at the Wharton School of Business. So, you know, I went in with a big nose up, and I was asked to do treasurership. Interesting things occurred. At that time in Philadelphia, there was ABSCAM, and RICO laws were very much looked at. Well, I was involved with the local civic association. Most of the members were attorneys. These were attorneys, Philadelphia located between New York and Washington, D.C. They belonged to larger firms and had licenses in all 3 states. Anyway, I remember one of them, and this is important for all of you to understand when receipts are not being provided. One of the attorneys came to me and he said, I vote on things. I need to know what's going on. If you have questions, come to me. I have junior partners. This was a Skadden Arps attorney. And what he said to me most importantly, which I thought was odd at the time, but I understand now, if I vote incorrectly, my license will be at stake, and so will be my reputation. My license and my reputation, because it had to do with finances. And I can guarantee you that before he ever made that statement, he was always watching me. I could tell that. And every once in a while, he'd ask for the receipts. Well, it was always there, and I kept it in the room where we met. Take it for what you will, but Elizabeth Hewitt hasn't produced she hasn't produced all of the records that show exactly how the money is being spent. And you have students in classes who are not getting textbooks. One of the mothers recently came and said in Conard in science, midterm C's and D's because the students don't have textbooks. That is one of the receipts that I was asking for. Middle school, 3 grades, science class, 2 textbooks per table. From my understanding is the textbooks are not allowed to leave the table. How are they studying science? Please keep that in mind. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Addie.
Addie Lorden, 561 Park Road. According to your own records from your finance director, over $400,000 has been spent on textbooks. Yet there is no list of titles and which grades they go to. Over $100,000 has been spent on workbooks. Yet, as parent in this district for 15 years, I haven't seen a workbook come home or in the school for over a decade. It's all handouts that are photocopied. Over $29,000 per student per year spent, more than Greenwich at $20,000, and our children come home with photocopies. What else is being done in your name? Well, let me tell you. When interim Superintendent Morrow was assistant superintendent in charge of administration, he allowed targeting of students, removal from class to tell them that they were mean, and told a student to go to the psychologist. What else is being done in your name? You, the Board of Education. Your town attorney Dodge and Corporation Council is before the FOIA Commission for denying rights to a resident, me, under the Freedom of Information Act. He has now hired Cowdrey, Murphy, Dennehy, and Healy to defend him for denying my rights. This is a white-collar defense firm, hired because, under your name, Town Attorney Dodge denied my rights. Also denied my right to sit down with HR Director Julio Duarte to discuss hiring practices. We parents, we residents are allowed under law to know who is hired and who is spending time 6 hours a day, 5 days a week in the presence of our children. Without accessibility, there is no accountability. If parents cannot access information, they cannot hold anyone accountable. What is being done in your name? There are 3 bills now entered into the legislation, one of which says that you cannot, under FOIA as a parent, it's proposed, seek the records for the conversations between teachers and your students. People are worried you're eroding the parental rights. You're not eroding the parental rights. You're eroding the student rights. Because without parents and guardians advocating for their children, asking questions, demanding records, demanding accountability through accessibility for information, then our children have no rights. And as Anne McKernan said, they're under our control. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to make a comment, a general comment? All right, we will now pause on public communications. And before we go to non-staff communication and reports, just want to take a point of privilege just to acknowledge that we are approaching the end of February, and we know that we often, February is recognized as Black History Month. However, we know that Black history is American history, and that can be celebrated year-round. And so with that, I just want to share a quote with you that was stated by Booker T. Washington, who was known as an educator, an author, an orator, an advisor to several presidents. And he once said, "Success is to be measured not so much by the position that one has reached in life as by the obstacles which he has overcome while trying to succeed." And as we know, American history, Black history is timeless. This quote is timeless. So certainly want to share that with you as we continue to uplift all of those that have contributed to making this country as great as it is. And so with that, now would like to move to non-staff communications and reports, and we'll hear from Megan, who will share updates. Thank you so much.
Good evening, everyone. So tonight I just have a few quick announcements, a lot of them regarding our girls' sports at Connor. They had a big weekend this weekend, starting with girls' track and field. They had state opens, and I want to recognize 3 of our athletes. First, Audrey Kirkudis. She was the champion in high jump. Liv Sherry, she was the champion in 1,000 meter. And Tess Sherry, who was the state runner-up in 1,600 meter. So that was amazing accomplishments by all 3 of them and the entire team. And then secondly, Conard girls basketball had a big weekend, winning 3 games in the CCC tournament. And last night they defeated the number 2 seed, E.O. Smith. So that was amazing. And they'll play tomorrow at University of Hartford at 7 p.m. for the championship game, which is a really big deal. So we're really proud of them. And then just outside of athletics, the English department held their 2nd annual Shakespeare competition. And then secondly, Conard Young Democrats Club and Environmental Club members met with State Representative Kate Farrar and State Senator Derek Slap to learn about public hearings and how to testify and make their voice heard, which was really important and a great opportunity for them. So that's all I have.
That's a lot that you have. Thank you so much. And for our student representative, Caitlin, she's not here for good reason. She's part of Pops and Jazz, and they are actively preparing this week. So we wish her well as all of the other students. Now moving on to new business, where we have the proposed calendar for the 2024-2025 school year, the first reading, that is. And we have a recommendation that the Board of Education review as a first reading the proposed calendar for the 2024-2025 school year. And so before we move ahead, we'll pass it to Dr. Morrow.
There you go. So as you know, that we go ahead and the board adopts and considers calendars 2 years ahead of time for planning purposes for parents to arrange everything from holidays, vacations to daycare and such. And so in doing so, we consider various start days, we consider the mandates that are provided by the state, and we also consider the focus of trying to be out of school at a reasonable date, as we know that it gets warm come June, and we know that people have plans for that. And so what you have in front of you is your first read of the school calendar for 2024-2025. It begins on August 28th as the first day. If you remember, traditionally we start the first day on Wednesdays. That gives us the half day. It's a great transition for students and gives that opportunity that we feel is important for them to start on such a positive note. It also then ends on June 11th. And as usual, any snow days, any other issues, we would add on to the end of that. The only addition that is on here that you haven't seen before is, as requested, we included the addition of the holiday on November 1st of Diwali. And so open to any questions you might have or any suggestions that you'd like to consider before your second reading.
Right. So teammates, questions. Before we do that, let's formalize this with a motion, and then we'll have our second, and then we'll formally have discussion. So is there a motion that the Board of Education review as a first reading the proposed calendar for the 2024-2025 school year?
So moved.
Thank you, Ari. Is there a second?
Second?
Thank you, Jason. Discussion. So teammates, what are your thoughts with what's been shared?
Mine was a question, is Diwali, how many, is there a rule how you do it, or is it just percent? I don't have a problem with it, but I just want to understand the rules.
It's a great question, Ethan. No, there isn't a rule. Let me qualify that and say that each year in our curriculum office and our equity advancement office, we provide guidance and resources to our teachers to understand the various religions, cultural practices, traditions, and to be responsive of a variety of different holidays that aren't formally recognized on our current holiday, Diwali being on our current calendar, Diwali being one of them. There is no board policy, nor is there a district rubric for at a certain threshold of students or families, this holiday gets added, that holiday gets added. We include information and have always been responsive to Jewish holidays, to Eid at the end of Ramadan, to Diwali, to Three Kings Day, and other holidays where school may be in session. This was an ad to formally recognize this holiday. We don't track at a district level the number of students by religion or by celebration. We can estimate and give a rough estimate based on the home languages that are perhaps spoken. And again, it's a rough generalization of probably also combining that with the 3 or 4% that we estimate would be our Indian Peninsula students of that nationality. And we can argue probably close to 350 students perhaps and their families that would be celebrating this. Okay. But again, that's just there's no rubric, there's no tracking of it.
Because my assumption is once it's on, it's on.
That's completely up to you as the board.
All right. Thanks.
If I may say, Ethan, I appreciate the question. Thank you. And thank you very much, Dr. Murrow, for the thorough answer to that. And with this addition, and certainly the question of as to why, it certainly does reflect our acknowledgement of the students who we serve in our community and in our town as well. And so receptiveness to adding this to our calendar is one that will be well received by many if it does officially move to a vote. And so thank you for your question of wanting to learn more.
So I think we might want to look, and I'm not sure when, to set the rules so it's at least set. Maybe it's something, I don't know, it shouldn't be ambiguous, I guess. So it's
Yeah.
something to think, I wasn't looking to do it now, but it may be something for the future.
Right. I think when you say set the rules, I'm not sure what you mean by that.
So what is the perception, because it is perception, of how many students or families observe it? Because there may be other ones out there. I'm going to display my ignorance of what other might be there, but, you know.
Like-
And that's not to say they shouldn't, because my kids certainly benefited from religious holidays. Although the town I grew up, they didn't have any, and I loved it, but my kids were different. They wanted to make sure the holidays were there. So I'm good with it. I just think we ought to have rules. And I don't know what they are.
I know one, it's policies. And we know with our policies, and that is one of the pieces that our as a board member, we collectively are responsible for. And one of our recently passed policies